If you ask just about anyone, a friend, your family, even a traditional retirement planner, what's the number one thing you should do to get financially free?
The answer is always the same.
Always attack your debt. Get rid of that mortgage. Just throw every spare dollar you have at it until it's gone. It's like the American dream, right? To be completely debt-free.
It is. It sounds like the safest, most responsible thing you could possibly do. But, well, according to the research we've dug into for today's deep dives, from a really seasoned financial strategist, that conventional wisdom is actually a huge mistake.
A huge mistake.
Yeah, they argue that aggressively paying down your mortgage is actually the least effective way to build wealth, that it could be costing you literally hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay, so that's a shocking claim, and it immediately makes me question the whole foundation. Like, what does out of debt even mean then? Because if we follow this strategy, we have to completely throw out that old definition of just owing nobody anything. We have to learn a whole new way of looking at it. So, all right, let's unpack this.
So for these high net worth individuals, being out of debt has nothing to do with a zero balance on a loan.
Yeah.
Their definition is totally different.
Okay.
It's about having enough liquid assets, cash, that's accessible, safe, let's call it your financial right-hand pocket, that can, at any moment pay off all your liabilities in your left-hand pocket.
With just a simple wire transfer.
Exactly. You're completely solvent. You're safe. The debt might exist on paper, but you have it covered.
And that immediately explains that weird story from the source material, the one about the bank manager for the wealthiest clients.
Yeah.
She was always just baffled because her clients would constantly refinance their homes, like right up to the hilt. They'd pull out all the equity, even though she knew they had the cash sitting right there to pay the whole thing off.
Mm-hmm. They're borrowing money they don't even need. It's because they understand that the mortgage isn't a burden you have to kill. It's a tool. It's something you leverage.
Right. Paying it off means trapping your cash in an asset that, it appreciates, but it's totally illiquid.
Which brings us to this central idea, this analogy that really frames the whole strategy.
The mortgage as an employee.
Exactly. If you're a business owner, you hire someone because they make you money.
Right. They have to generate more for the company than you pay them in salary. It's simple.
So think about the numbers.
Yeah.
Let's say you pay an employee, I don't know, $118,000 a year.
Okay.
And that person, they bring in $535,000 in revenue for your business. Your net profit on that employee is $416,000.
You would never, ever fire that person. That would be completely insane for your business.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do with our mortgages. We're all trying as hard as we can to fire this employee that could be making us a profit.
So let's look at the math that makes it an employee. How does that work?
Well, it's actually pretty simple. So let's say you're borrowing money at a 6% interest rate, but, and this is a big but, that interest is structured to be tax deductible. We'll get to how in a second.
Okay.
So your net cost of borrowing might drop to, say, 4%, maybe even less. Now, if that cash you've borrowed is sitting somewhere else in a safe place, and it's earning you 8%, and that 8% is compounding tax-free.
Wait, so you're paying 4% for the money, but you're earning 8% on it.
You are making a 100% margin on your cost of borrowing. That's the definition of positive leverage.
Okay, that sounds a little too good to be true, especially the part about a safe, predictable 8% return that's also tax-free. I mean, what kind of investment does that without massive risk?
That's a great question. We do have to put a pin in it for just a moment because the answer is the vehicle, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But first, we have to talk about the part that makes the borrowing so cheap.
The tax advantage.
The tax advantage, that's the engine.
So let's dive into that because you have to distinguish between preferred interest and non-preferred interest.
Right. So non-preferred is your typical consumer debt. Credit cards, car loans. You can't deduct that interest. You're just paying it.
Out of pocket with after-tax money.
Exactly. But preferred interest, that's the key. That's for things like business loans or investment properties. That interest is a deduction, which saves you real money on your tax bill.
And the genius here in the strategy we're looking at is how it turns your personal home mortgage into preferred deductible interest.
It's all about an IRS rule that says interest is deductible if the money you borrowed is used for a business purpose. It actually doesn't matter what the collateral is.
So it could be your house.
It could be your house. So if you're a business owner or you have a side hustle, the strategist says you refinance your home, take that cash, and put it directly into the business.
So now you're not thinking, I have a mortgage. You're thinking, I have a business loan that's just collateralized by my house.
Precisely. And if you pay, say, $12,000 in interest a year, and you're in the 33% tax bracket. That deduction saves you $4,000 in actual cash. Your borrowing costs just plummeted.
Okay, so that brings together what the source calls the three big marvels of wealth accumulation.
Yeah, the first one is simple. Compound interest. We all know that one.
Right.
The second, though, is the real accelerator. It's compounding tax-free.
And that's the game changer. I love the quote in the source from Rothschild. Compound interest tax-free is the eighth wonder of the world.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because your money isn't just growing on your money. It's growing on the money you would have paid the government in taxes.
The growth just explodes. Okay, so what's the third marvel?
The third is safe positive leverage. And that word, safe, is so important.
Right, because leverage can be scary.
It can be. But here, leverage just means owning and controlling an asset, like a house, with very little or none of your own cash actually tied up inside that asset. You're using OPM.
Other people's money.
Other people's money. And this is totally different from what the source calls bad leveraging.
Which is what most people do. They take, say, $500,000 in cash, and they split it into 20% down payments.
And that cash is gone. It's trapped. It's
Yeah.
illiquid equity. And it's guaranteed to go down if the market drops. You can't get it out without selling or refinancing when you're in trouble.
But the smart way is to keep that 500 grand separate and liquid, safe, in that right-hand pocket.
Yeah. And you borrow 80% or more to buy the properties. The house still appreciates either way, but now your cash is safe and accessible. You have control. You have options.
Okay, so now that we get the mechanics, cheap, deductible debt, and safe, tax-free growth, let's look at the actual numbers, the side-by-side comparison.
This is where it gets really clear. The strategist lays out three paths, using a $210,000 mortgage as an example.
Okay, so path number one, the good way. This is what everyone tells you to do.
The conventional wisdom. You send every extra dime to the mortgage company. You get it paid off in 12.5 years. Then you start investing that same payment into a 401k or an IRA.
And after 30 years, that account grows to almost $1 million, $987,000. Sounds pretty great.
Sounds great, but it's tax deferred, which means you still have to pay the tax man when you take it out. So that $1 million is really only worth, what, $650,000 or $700,000?
Right. That's our baseline. Now, what's the better way?
The better way is all about liquidity. You do not send extra payments to the mortgage. Instead, that extra cash goes into that special financial vehicle we mentioned earlier.
This laser fund thing.
Right. Which is technically a max-funded indexed universal life, or IUL, policy. You use it like a supercharged savings account, not for the insurance part. Your cash grows tied to a market index, but with a 0% floor, so you can't lose your principal, and all your access to the cash is tax-free.
Okay, so what happens?
Using that vehicle, you actually have enough liquid tax-free cash to pay off the mortgage in just 10.2 years, so over 2 years sooner.
Without ever sending an extra dime to the bank.
Exactly. And the final number is what's staggering. After 30 years, the final tax-free accumulation is $1,245,000.
Whoa. So 1.245 million tax-free compared to maybe 700,000 after tax?
Yeah.
That's almost double the actual money in your pocket.
Just from being more efficient with your cash flow and avoiding taxes. But that's only the better way.
Right. So what's the best way?
The best way is you go full leverage. So after 10.2 years, you have over $1 million sitting there, safe and liquid. You are financially out of debt. You could pay off the mortgage.
But you don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
You keep that profitable employee. Why would you fire an employee that's costing you 4% net when it's helping you earn 8% tax-free?
You wouldn't.
You let the cash keep compounding tax-free for the full 30 years. You just let the debt ride. And the final number, it jumps again to $1,844,000.
Okay, wait. So $1.844 million tax-free compared to the $650,000 after tax from the normal way. That's almost 3 times the wealth. It's incredible. And it just shows that liquidity, not debt elimination, is the real goal.
And this isn't just some theory from one person. The source material points to a 2005 white paper from the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, a 38-page analysis on this exact topic.
The Chicago Fed, what did they find?
Their conclusion was, well, it was crystal clear. They called mortgage overpayments a misallocation of funds. And they called this alternative approach, investing the money, instead, a conservative way of optimizing wealth.
Conservative, that's the word that stands out. Coming from the Fed, that's a huge validation.
And you see how conservative it is when you stress test it, like in the 2008 crisis example.
Right, the story about the guy who refinanced his $1.5 million home in 2007 for 100% of its value.
Yeah, he pulled out $400,000 in equity. right before the crash.
And by 2008, the house was only worth $1.1 million. He was completely underwater. If that cash had been trapped in the house, that $400 K loss would have been real. He would have been stuck.
But he wasn't, because he had put that $400,000 hate into that liquid, safe vehicle, the laser fund. It was earning over 10% tax-free while the market was crashing. He was liquid, his principal was safe, and he could easily make the mortgage payments.
So the debt was just a small, manageable cost, while the capital it provided was making him a ton of tax-free money. The goal isn't just to get rid of debt, it's to make sure you're earning more on your money than the debt is costing you.
That's the whole game. It's arbitrage. It's how banks and insurance companies get rich, and it's what the strategist is saying you should do too.
So the final takeaway for you listening is really to shift your whole mindset. Stop seeing debt as this monster you have to slay, and start seeing it as a cheap tool to build tax-free wealth and keep your capital liquid.
Yeah, I mean, the choice is pretty stark. You can have the $650,000 after-tax result or the $1.8 million tax-free result.
It's all about how you use that employee.
This whole discussion, it really just hinges on liquidity being more important than net worth. I mean, if you're making a 300% profit on the cost of your debt, why on earth would you rush to tow it off? Now, if having your house paid off helps you sleep at night, that's fine. That's an emotional decision.
Sure.
But what if? What if having maximum safe, tax-free liquidity, the ability to handle any emergency or jump on any opportunity, helps you sleep even better during a recession? Which raises a final question, really. If you could borrow money for a guaranteed 2.5% net cost and safely earn 8% tax-free, wouldn't you want to borrow as much as you possibly could for as long as you possibly could?